All right, Ike, we are back from the summer break. I hope you're healed nicely and
summer breakdown.
Indeed, and it was nothing short of that. So I'm glad you didn't die. Although, despite your best efforts, you didn't die.
I'm still trying.
Yeah. Well, and how's Linus's car?
It is on the mend. We have removed the cylinder head. We have ascertained what we think to be the problem, and I think it will be back together and motoring soon, which means we will be terrifying strangers along roadways before you know it.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad to hear it. And the second of your Jason Momoa motorcycle collection is like days away from arriving there in Oregon, where you can, God only knows what will be to follow you on that thing.
It is one day away. It is a much older machine and even slower, so the death will be more painful and agonizing and slower than the other motorcycle.
Well, I certainly can't wait. So back at it as we are back to our regular Land Rover scheduled program. Wonderful show for everyone this afternoon. Our very good friend Nick Dimbleby, author, photog, just general man of action, is here to talk about his new Camel Trophy book, The Definitive History of Camel Trophy, in fact.
Prepare yourself for some quality radio with a gentleman and a scholar, Nick Dimbleby.
Oh, man.
He is an amazing fellow.
Yeah,
very talented.
So great. I can't wait. I am looking so forward to chatting with him. Nick's such a great guy. Haven't seen him in person in 18 months, 2 years. I don't know how long we've been all separated from each other, but man, it will be good to catch up with him. But first, in the news this week, Ike, I don't know if you came across Land Rover's announcement of yet another model in their Make the Shit We Can program, the 007 edition new Defender.
Yes, I did see this. This is the Bond edition, which I think is sort of not necessarily simultaneous, but proximate to the release of the new Bond film, No Time to Die.
Yeah.
And they're releasing a new vehicle, which is similar to the vehicle that appears in the film, same color and fancy engine options. But definitely a lot of these special editions seem to be derived, at least in some part, to the chip shortage.
Yeah.
They can't build too many vehicles, so the ones that we can build better be, high margin vehicles. So this is another in the line of special edition cars that they've been releasing with the, parts and pieces that they have available to them.
And unlike the Aston Martin DB5 car that the Goldfinger edition car that Aston Martin is building, this one doesn't have any functional machine guns or flipping license plates or an oil slick or bumperlets or an ejection seat, to the best of my knowledge anyways.
I think it's probably just the normal oil slicks that come with any Land Rover.
That's exactly, nothing special. They haven't had to modify anything specifically there. It does have, when you start the car on the display on the computer screen in the middle, apparently has the 007 logo and some kind of neat stuff. So
does it do the dun-dun-dun-dun?
Oh, I hope
when
so.
When you
every single time it starts.
Every single time it starts, that would probably get tiresome.
It's 4.5 minutes long. Every single time you start the car. For a quick side story, when I had a Tesla for a little while, and for some reason, whenever I started it, my phone would be paired to it. It would play the Tron soundtrack, which is like a very techno-y sort of big thing. No matter what I did to any of the internal components of my phone or the car, I would get the opening theme song to the Tron film every single time I started the car. And there was like a quick succession of button presses. But for those who had never been in the car with me before, it was a really great way to it was a very exciting way to get going with a real orchestral theme song.
I'm reading the Land Rover website about this edition, and there is a startup message when you start the infotainment system. So there is actually a startup message, and it does project 007 logos on the ground when you open the door.
Oh my goodness. That is, I like it. I think it's cool. It's maybe the most murdered out of all Defenders to date. It is the blackest of black Defenders, but it's cool. I think it's kind of a neat thing that they're doing, and a fun brand tie-in, and I'm sure they'll sell all of them.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're probably already sold, but it is a nice looking vehicle. I will concede that.
All right. Well, let's rev up the interview machine, put some gas or diesel, again, it doesn't matter, into it and get. Now, I believe Nick is actually coming from us, is coming from a cave somewhere in the Highlands of Scotland or something. He has I believe, an internet connection that is provided by a wire on a kite somewhere outside of the cave. So maybe not the most stellar connection. So there may be some a little bit of a delay, but we'll work our way through it.
It's a bit of a Heath Robinson, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah, it'll be worth it. Okay, here we go.
Coming to us live from the United Kingdom is Nick Dimbleby, famous photographer. Thank you so much for coming, Nick.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm absolutely honoured to be in the virtual chair.
That's exactly right. And from it would seem that you're in some sort of Malaysian jungle or something, but in fact, just in the south of England, and getting enough communication. Yes, exactly, into your hotel room. And thank you for joining us while you're traveling about the country. I'm sure off to photograph some kind of top secret, stunning automobile. Ike and I were just talking about the off-road Morgan, about the 6B Morgan, yes, a couple of weeks ago, and that stellar photography and that
Thank
car.
you. Yeah, that was a
you
really
probably
cool
one of the only non-Saudi princes that got exposure to that particular car. Now I imagine they'll all get squirreled away somewhere. The world will never see them again. But
yeah, the amazing car that was. It really was a cool bit of kit. And the fantastic thing was the fact that that's not what you expect a Morgan to be doing, but it does it really, really well.
That's so cool.
Did you get to drive the car?
Oh, I did actually. Yes, I did. And they had two cars there actually. One which was the hero car plus the prototype, which did all the engineering testing. So I went and gave the prototype a bit of a sort of a test, shall we say?
Nice.
But it did return unscathed.
Can you tell us anything about it?
What do you want to know?
Everything.
Ike is starting a separate podcast about the Morgan
exactly.
CXG that is that's very, very popular. For those 8 people who will buy one,
it's not very underpowered. That's for certain. Even though it's the 4-cylinder, it does go pretty well. It's a lot of fun.
Looks like it. It's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool car.
No, definitely.
Does it have any wooden components?
Now that's a good question actually. I think it does, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure because it's got the new aluminium. Note I said aluminium under sort of platform. But I think there is some wood in it somewhere. I'm pretty sure there is. I'm not an expert. Unfortunately, see, I'm more of a sort of photographic visual. Takes the outside. I know a little bit about mechanics, but I'm not, unfortunately, very talented when it comes to all the technical knowledge.
So the wood wasn't plainly visible to you.
It wasn't plainly visible, but when we finish this call, I'm going to find out. I'll let you know.
What is the percentage of wood in a Morgan CXP? All right. Well, Nick, thanks again for joining us. And I think, again, we are such huge fans of your body of work. We talk about it on the show all the time. There's always some amazing new photo gracing your Instagram or the world at large, it be it the recent spread on the V8 Land Rovers, or like we said, the Morgan, or any number of things. And of course, that's just very recently. But
Steven's always talking about your body.
I am talking about your body.
When he started to say about your body, I was like, what the?
Yeah, that's right. It's a different kind of podcast.
Thank goodness this is radio, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I've got Ike and I have a body for radio, so it does make a bit of sense. But so, Nick, how is it that you found yourself as the world's sort of preeminent automotive photographer? Where did that start for you? Did you, as a lad, say, you know what I'm going to do when I grow up? Morgan's going to make a strange off-road car, and I'm going to take a bunch of pictures of it. Or how did you find yourself in a world where you have an opportunity to do these amazing photo shoots with all these amazing cars.
It's one of those things that just sort of all came together. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but it did. And I guess when you're sort of in your, well, not even a teenager, I was about 10 or 11, suddenly got an interest in photography, and I basically, for some reason, I always had an interest in cars. Not a lot of people know this, but I actually, my parents lived in the States for a year in North Carolina, and I was there when I was between the ages of 2 and 3, and I think it was seeing those big American sort of early 70s cars that really sort of made an impression on me. So I've always been into cars. And I was always, I got more into modified cars, and then Range Rover. I actually did a book. This is again not a known fact. Not very many people know this, but I did a book on Range Rover conversions when I was just 13. Just basically because I was completely and utterly obsessed with them, and I made a scrapbook. My father, who's a bit of an academic, had written a few books, so I sort of thought, well, if Dad can do a book, I can do a book. So I basically put this stuff together, and it was published by Haynes Publishing, no less. Anyway, at the same time, was into photography and sort of got into Range Rovers. And then I started doing a bit of work for what was then a very small magazine called Land Rover Owner, which was basically run by 2 or 3 blokes in a shed in Norfolk. It was very, very small, and they asked me to do a bit of stuff, and I was a teenager, and literally was doing sort of events. My dad was kind enough to drive me to these events, and I was taking pictures. And it's just sort of gone from there, really. It's just carried on, and it's a fantastic way to earn a living, basically getting paid to do 2 of the things that I absolutely love, which is taking photographs and being surrounded by Land Rovers.
Oh, that's absolutely spectacular.
Do you have room for an apprentice?
Can we come and hang out? Yeah, exactly. This is a free someone to carry around your tripod, perhaps. Happy to oblige.
I do have a few offers every now and again. People say it's
I can
I carry your bag?
Would be a pretty healthy list of individuals that would like to be in that crowd. It's amazing how so many people we talk to that have a passion for Land Rovers, motor cars in general, it sort of starts at that very young age, right? It starts as that sort of inspiration of something about, these
Absolutely.
aspirational, interesting vehicles, right? And so with that in mind, of all of the vehicles, and I'm sure it's literally thousands. I imagine it's several thousand different types of cars and things that you've taken either professional or non-professional photos of over the years. If you had to sort of pick one, and it might not be the car, but maybe the circumstance around it, what was the sort of most memorable? Your maybe not your favorite, but the photograph or the car that sort of struck you as something that was sort of truly special, sort of take a moment to say, like, this is an insane thing that I do for a living, and it's put me here, and what an amazing place this is.
Well, yeah, that's a really tricky question, because I've had some amazing moments in my 25, 30-year-old, well, 30-year, I guess, career, yeah, that's a tricky one. I would say probably, and this is not me trying to sort of talk about Camel Trophy prematurely, but
you're right.
I think probably for me, the one of the best shoots that I ever did was the 1997 Camel Trophy in Mongolia. Just because Mongolia is such a spectacular place. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, really, and I think particularly that time was end of the 90s. It was pre-internet. There was a little, well, I say pre-internet, there was definitely no internet there. And it was it was like traveling back in time. It was like, the Mongolians at the time were a nomadic population. When you left the city, you felt like you'd gone back to the medieval times. And it was a real privilege, and I think one of the things that, and in fact, this is not actually answering your question, because I'm saying more about the experience than the actual photo, but I remember the whole event very fondly. But it was the fact that, again, this is pre-digital era. So this was all shot on film. So of course, when you took a picture of one of the local people, you weren't able to actually share that picture with them on the back of the camera like you are now.
Right.
So what we did, we actually took Polaroid cameras with us. So we were able to take pictures of the local population with our own cameras and film. But we would also then give them a sort of a payback by taking a picture with them on the Polaroid and then giving them the Polaroid, which
cool.
And it seems incredible now, but when they saw it, they were actually seeing this photo appear in front of them. And
right.
I swear some of the kids for them it was like some sort of witchcraft. It was like magic, because they were seeing this photo appear. And also, I mean, they don't have mirrors, so they were to actually see themselves in a photo was possibly the first time, particularly with the children, that they actually ever saw themselves. And it was amazing to see these sort of 6, 7, 8-year-old kids that were basically all huddled around this photo, watching it appear. And then the person who it was would see it, and they would be like, really. And it was lots of laughter, and they were like, and touching their face, and it was really quite a special thing, and that was 23 years ago. So not that
that's
long
amazing.
ago at all.
And well, it's funny because obviously Camel Trophy, I think for any Land Rover owner, is such an amazing event, phenomenon, whatever, right? And I think that the interesting thing is we've talked to, many folks, right, who've been involved in Camel Trophy, from Duncan Barber to here in the States with Bill Burke and our friends here. And they never talk about, this time that we, had to, get over this bridge or this obstacle, or the truck was doing this, or they always talk about where they were and who they met and what an impact that made on them, more so than we dug ditches for 2 weeks, or we, raced these cars around, or we swam across a lake with a transmission, or some, the things that you sort of see in the Camel Trophy, films and things. They always talk about, what an impact the people made, the place made. It's sort of remarkable as an event that, sort of is a bit of a sort of race car show, a bit of an adventure show sort of thing that the actual people who were there don't talk about it that way.
You're right.
I think is sort of stands to the, the kind of the way it was put together and the sort of impact it had on the individuals.
Yes, no, very much so, very much so. But I want to answer your question as well, just in terms of taking the photo that's the most sort of resonates most with me. And it is very difficult because there are so many photos and again, there's always the backstory that goes with it. And sometimes some of the pictures that aren't the most amazing pictures do have an interesting backstory. And I think actually just coming back to that, so there was a series of pictures that I did in 2010, which was with Roger Craythorne, who I think probably won't need much of an introduction for most people, but I mean, he's known as, or certainly was known as, Mr. Land Rover, worked at the company for I think 48 years. Anyway, he was a driver on the original Range Rover launch in 1970. So the photography that was done with YVB 153H, note the anorak there, in North Wales back in March 1970. So these were the press images prior to the car being launched in June 1970. And anyway, to celebrate the 40th anniversary in 2010, I spoke to Roger and said, "Roger, do you remember where you shot these things?" And he was like, "No, I don't. I can't really remember, but it was Snowdonia." So between the two of us and getting the old photos and looking at maps and just basically just doing a lot of research, we actually managed to find the locations where he went with the film crew and the photographer back in 1970, 40 years previously. And he and I went then back and did a 2 or 3 day shoot with that particular car as well, YVB 153. And it was incredible because you think, this is a man that drove that same car 40 years before at the same location, and here I am photographing him doing it again for the second time, and it was just a real privilege, and just really cool, and then also we had at the time, which was the 2010 model year, which was the L322 Range Rover. and we just popped it in the same place. And it was remarkable because the landscape had changed, trees had grown and things were different, but the actual mountains and the sort of all the way that it all hung together was exactly the same. And I think that was something quite special.
It's amazing that Land Rover does continually come back to that style of sort of a heritage, whatever you want to call it, adverts. It's been the sort of, there's always been that taking, again, like we said, when we started off the V8 Land Rovers, and from the first V8 Land Rover all the way through to this most recent generation where of series Land Rovers with V8s all the way to this, and constantly referring back to that, I think is something that is interesting and sort of remarkable about Land Rover, but also that so keenly relies on such outstanding photography. Because is it just Land Rover's desire to always have these great looking photos of the cars in these great places? Is that something that, your predecessors, sort of imparted into the brand? Where does that legacy of these amazing photographs come from? Because it is kind of a hallmark of the brand.
For sure. But I mean, I guess it's inevitable, isn't it? Because you've got, a vehicle that will take you to places that are cool, So that's the first part, and then secondly, I think you've got a bunch of people that work there that are keen to go and do that, and not just the people that work there, but of course there's thousands of owners, and I'm sure many of them are listening to this now that go off and just do cool stuff with their Land Rovers. So inevitably, the company needs to do the same thing, which I'm very, very privileged to be able to do some of these trips and some of these photos. But as you say, there is an enormous heritage. There's an enormous, I've got many people that have gone before me that have taken stunning pictures, and that's why I want to do what I do. In fact, in the Camel Trophy book, the introduction talks about me. I write about how I ended up doing what I did, and one of those things was as a 11, 12-year-old in France, I on holiday. Basically, my parents, I was into Land Rovers at that point, they bought a 4x4 magazine that had the 1985 Camel Trophy in it. And, there's all these incredible pictures of Camel 90s basically flying through the air, suspended under helicopters, up to their windscreens in water, with guys basically, driving through and just, getting these vehicles through. And it was something that really resonated with me. I was like, I've got to do this. This is what I want to do. And then, eventually I managed to get on and do it, which,
that's a perfect segue into of course, you can't talk about your career, about your body of work. We'll come back to the body of work, without talking about the Camel. Yeah, the successful body, without talking about, Camel Trophy, and the fact that not only is it synonymous with Land Rover, obviously, but, at least in my mind, some of the greatest Camel Trophy photographs, including some of the photographs that taken of my car, most likely, were taken by you. Some of these iconic, and certainly for a lot of people, I think, kind of coming to age when the Discovery was the sort of, was the feature vehicle of Camel Trophy, and these amazing sort of photographs of these cars. So, that brings us to sort of, we buried the lead, but, a big reason that we wanted to have you on the show, besides your, again, amazing body work, was the fact that you have finally, I say finally because it seems as though it was a foregone conclusion, come up with an amazing anthology of all of the photograph and writing that you've done around Camel Trophy in a new book. That is literally on printing presses right now, as we were trying to get a copy to read before the interview. But so what kind of things can we, expect in this book? What inspired you to finally take it and take the time, collect it, and put it together?
Cool. Well, I mean, I was probably, you could say I was quite late to the party, because my first event was in 1996. So by the time I joined, there'd already been 16 events. So and of course, I was 7 years old when the first one took place, in 1980. So, I would have loved to have gone, but I think I probably wouldn't have been very welcome as a 7-year-old. But it's one of those things that one of the inspirations to do this book was exactly that. The photography on Camel Trophy has always been absolutely amazing, and the videography as well, the film. I mean, everyone, I think that's one of the enduring appeals as well, why the event is still talked about, still seen now, is because, good photography and amazing imagery, it never goes out of date. It's always going to be relevant. Doesn't matter whether, you weren't born when the first event took place. There are people that have seen pictures from the, the 1992 event, 91 event, 85 event, whatever. And you look at it and go, wow, that's just incredible. And that was a big part for me for doing this book was, it's been 20 years or 21 years actually now since the last Camel Trophy, which obviously was in boats, so a little bit different, but 21 years is a long time. And, really the event should have been forgotten about. It should be, not no longer being talked about, but it is. And the reason for that is that incredible photography. But a lot of this photography has been sort of lost in the mist of time because, of course, much of it, in fact, most of it was shot on film. So it's not like, nowadays with your phones and everything else, it's so easy just to pop photographs out. All this film had to be scanned. So, anyway, one of the things that I wanted to do was basically get these old photos that are sat in filing cabinets and in attics around the world and show them to the world. And I think, again, I wanted to make something, every page on the book I wanted to make as a bit of a wow moment, and stuff. And I think hopefully I've achieved that. We've been, I've been incredibly lucky to speak to and get hold of photographs from the best of the best. They're really, these guys were doing fantastic work. So for example, there's a chap called Lee Farrant who looked after the photographic operation for Camel Trophy from 1990 onwards. So he's the last 10 years. But prior to that, there was, and as you probably know, the first three events were German only competitions. The first two events, I'm talking nonsense here. 1980 and 1981 were just Germans. 82 was the first year where it was an international set of teams. But the event was still run by Camel Trophy or RJ Reynolds Germany. So there's a gentleman called Wolfgang Drazen, who was the photographer on those first events, and he's now in his mid 70s. And basically, I managed to get hold of him and speak to him, even though he only speaks German. And a friend of mine, Paul Entwistle, was very kind to act as an intermediary to translate. And when he sent me a set of 40 original Kodachromes from those early events, it really was quite special because these were images that I'd not seen before. And this was one of the great things that was about doing this book was basically finding new images and also new stories. There's been a lot of really great stories that have sort of come to light. And it's been great to be the conduit to put all this together and put it into 300 plus pages.
Oh, I can't wait! I am looking very forward, on bated breath, to receiving the copy and going through. There's been a few Camel Trophy books over the years, but never felt very conclusive, such as it sounds like this one is going to be.
I didn't realize that it was not just your work and your words, but also like a compendium of all Camel Trophy photographers and artists that had done work on that competition. So yeah, that's definitely very interesting, and I didn't realize that you'd done so much research for the book. I'm excited to read it.
A lot of research.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the great things. I mean, this is a proper passion project. This is the book that if I was buying a book on Camel Trophy, this is the book that I want to buy. So hopefully, fellow, as all of us are, Land Rover enthusiasts, this will be a book that I think will undoubtedly appeal to all Land Rover enthusiasts because it's written by a Land Rover enthusiast, a Camel Trophy enthusiast. So I hope it will be something that people will look at and really, really enjoy.
Well, certainly can't wait. We can't wait. It's going to be, it's going to be a day spent with that locked in my office or something. So it can disturb me. I definitely want to get through this single read.
No.
But there are so many stories. I mean, the book itself is actually the result of a lockdown project. So as you obviously remember, back in March 2020, the world basically came to a crashing halt, and I had 2 months' work basically just cancel overnight. And
right
as it came into April, I was sort of looking and going, I need to think of something to do now, otherwise I'm going to go mad. And the Camel Trophy thing had always been something in the back of my mind to do. So this was like an absolute, let's do this. Let's make the time. Well, I had the time, so let's go and do it. So I basically put out a load of feelers amongst the Camel Trophy Club, and obviously the nice thing is because I worked as part of the Camel Trophy team for the last 4 years, I knew a lot of the people that were sort of key players, so was able to sort of contact them and sort of speak to them, and and it just sort of mushroomed from there, really. There were people that I hadn't worked with, so people like Duncan Barber and Duncan Lee that had stopped working for Camel by the time I joined in '96. And also, again, pushing it right back to the early years, and a gentleman called Andreas Bender, who's a German. He's an extraordinary chap, a German who nowadays is basically he's just an adventurer. He spends most of his time on the road. He's a fascinating character, but he I guess could legitimately be called Mr. Camel Trophy because he started the event in 1980. He was only 23 years old at the time, and he was the event leader. And so again, being able to talk to him and actually getting his first-hand experiences, and again, he was amazing. Once he knew this was a serious project, he opened up his archive, and again sent some amazing pictures. So this is not about Land Rover in this instance, but stuff from the 1980 event, which had the Ford U50 Brazilian-made Jeeps. He had the original photography of the game, which I've never seen, which he was he sent over, and obviously this is in the book. So this is one of the things that's been great, is just being able to sort of bring this stuff out of these archives that have been sat there. These pictures have probably sat there for the last sort of 38, 39 years. So it's been really, really good to get them out.
I think there's going to be, thousands of enthusiasts who are really excited to see this book, and I, for one, have ordered my copy, so I can't wait till it shows up. I have a quick question, which is, I'm always curious. You go on these trips and you do all these shoots, and you're working and you're trying to have this experience at the same time, and inevitably when you're doing something like that, there's a lot of improvisation. So sure, I'm always curious, like, what's the most interesting improvisation that you had to tackle to get the job done, whether it's, get a vehicle somewhere or take a photograph, or, there's always, some story behind that photo. Maybe you have a particular experience you could share with us.
I think, again, it's difficult to sort of pick a precise moment, but I think, with any sort of expedition or trip, the whole every day is an improvisation, because, and I think particularly if you look at it back from a photographic point of view, because you're dealt the hand you're given in terms of the location, the light, what the vehicle's doing. And that's the magic. That's when the magic happens, is, you, as a photographer, you can mix the ingredients together to make a great photo, but you need the ingredients in the first place. And there's been a few times where you think, maybe that there's going to be a spectacular location, and you've maybe looked at it. And again, this is actually quite interesting, because I think nowadays with Google and Google Earth, I tend to sort of maybe research a little bit more about the location before I go there. So I have a bit of an idea about, that would be a cool place to go to. But I remember going back to some of the Camel Trophy stuff, obviously there were pre-scouts done, but it was that thing where you didn't really know what was around the next corner, because there wasn't that internet sort of archive of material, and there wasn't thousands of people that had already gone and uploaded pictures onto the internet that you could already see. So that was always a quite an interesting thing to be able to sort of come around the corner and go, wow, this is pretty spectacular, and then having to work really quickly and put a photograph together or put an image together. And again, you might have this amazing, I don't know, sort of, again, one of my favorite times is when you've got a bit of sun, but with a really dark, moody, thundery cloud with a bit of rain, you get a rainbow and all these sort of things. It's really spectacular, but you can't plan that. You can't make there a magic rainbow. So, it's one of those things that you just got to make the most of it when it comes round. So yeah, I think everything is slightly improvised when it comes to sort of taking pictures, particularly on fast moving expeditions, because that's what I really enjoy, is going out and doing stuff, because you've got to think on your feet. You've got to sort of, you've got to make nice images from what's being presented to you. And that to me is where I really enjoy what I do.
Well, having worked with you on a couple of shoots, I can confidently say that your ability to take, maybe just a few ingredients and make a wonderful image out of them is rarely surpassed. I was always impressed with
That's very kind.
Yeah, your ability to take like a junky old Land Rover in a parking lot and make it look really spectacular. Not only the vehicle, but the light and the background capturing things and maybe obscuring others, making a picture look like it's somewhere else that you would want to be.
that'll be those cool cars you've got and that lovely Californian light.
And occasionally the gawky owner of those Land Rovers not looking too bad.
Oh yeah,
which is truly an art form. I've tried to photograph Ike, and it is nearly impossible. So it is good. So Nick, as we come to the end of our time with you, we always like to have guests sort of run the lightning round gauntlet of questions that Ike has prepared earlier on in the day.
I'm breaking into a sweat now.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most rigorous activities, I think, given your experience, that you'll probably ever be subjected to. Hard hitting and deeply personal questions at very high speed.
I was going to say, is there a time limit on these?
There's not a time limit, and because of the delay, there'll be a pause. Nick, for those of you that don't know, he's quite removed from us in distance, so we'll try to get this. We'll try to break it
short up. We're gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it so that it sounds instantaneous.
It'll be instantaneous. Your answers will be on point, of course. And there's only a few questions. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready. Okay.
All right. Here goes. Coils or leaves?
Ooh, coils.
All right.
Sorry.
Film or digital?
Oh, another difficult one. So hard. Well, just digital, because that's what I do nowadays. But I do enjoy doing a bit of film every now and again.
All right. Soft top or hard top?
Soft top.
Best way to remove 90 weight from your underpants?
Best way to remove what?
90 weight.
What's 90 weight?
Oh, no. It's oil, gear oil.
Oh, you see, I told you I'm not technical, you see. I can do the photo stuff.
Has never had to do it.
That's so embarrassing. Oh, my God.
Next question. Gas or diesel?
Okay. I'm going to go petrol. Gas.
Petrol.
Obviously.
All right.
Yeah, gas.
Most underrated piece of camera equipment?
Underrated. Oh my God.
This is the lightning round.
I know. This is terrible. I'm trying to think of something good to say. Lens hood.
Lens hood. All right.
Well, Nick, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. I can't wait to read the book. I think I am not in any minority there. I think everybody is looking very forward to it. It will be available imminently here in the next sometime here in September.
It will. And obviously, I guess you can tell now it's not particularly a technical book. There's not a lot of technical in terms of
not a lot of conversation about gear oil.
About gear oil. There's no gear oil stuff. It's all about cool stories and lots of very, very, very pretty pictures.
Well, we can't
wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Everybody should buy 2 copies.
I feel
Nick,
really embarrassed.
I hope you know you are more than welcome anytime to come back and spend time with us. We absolutely love having you with us, and it has been nothing but a sheer pleasure to have you on the show this afternoon. So good, safe travels, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll chat with you very soon.
Thanks for
coming.
Thank
you very much, guys. And next time we'll have a bit better internet connection, hopefully.
All right. Well, Stephen, that was a really amazing conversation with Nick. Can't wait to have him on the show again. For those listeners who haven't already ordered their copy, you can get it at porterpress.com and probably wherever any fine motoring books are sold, but definitely pick up a copy whenever you're able to.
Oh, yeah. And there is right now a special edition book that's available in pre-order as well as the regular book. And I'm sure they're both absolutely fabulous. Can't wait. Like I said, can't wait to get mine. Looking so forward to it.
I'm sure they will be sold out quickly, so get yours soon.
Yeah, and so for those of you who are Patreon subscribers, I just want to make sure that we mention that there is a completely ad-free version of the show that is available to you on our Patreon. So you can subscribe to that RSS feed. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber of the show, this is the perfect time. Plenty of backstory about the summer breakdown. There's some great photos that are only on there. A quick photo anthology of me sawing the steering wheel out of my stage one, and some other shenanigans such as that.
Some great perks for the Patreon subscribers, shirts and stickers and whatnot, and a little more access to us if you have questions. Certainly great, and it helps us put gas in the interview machine. So if you get an opportunity, and you can, subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely. The interview machine gets about 1/4 mile a gallon. So
thirsty.
It's a thirsty machine for sure. Well, before we sign off for today, Ike, I wanted to give a shout out to a very special listener, Mr. Oliver Haley, who is a good friend of the show. His dad also a big fan of the show, so we appreciate those guys. We appreciate those listeners. And Ike, it has been a slice as always. What a journey! Great to talk to Nick, and I'll make sure I run out to the dealer and get your deposit down on the 007 Defender for you.
Thank you, Oliver, and thank you to all of our listeners. So I'll see you next week, Stephen.
All right, cheers for now.
Take care.